I've been carrying this mask of being a strong woman for so long, and I feel like it's a mask that is most spread and common for men, but we women decided in the past few years, as you know, feminism rise, to just wear the same mask, and with wanting the same privileges as men, we unconsciously actually took the same wounds and pain points and sufferings. And I just like took my father's anger issues, rage, ego, and I saw my mother as weak, and I said, I don't want to emulate that, because that's not safe, because she was beaten by my father. And I was like, I definitely don't want to be her. That doesn't work, right? That is not safe. And I saw my father, and I saw how he would reward me if I were strong, if I would behave like him. And therefore I said, that's where the love is. Looking at my dad, that's not where the love is. Looking at my mom, that's how I started emulating my father more and more, until it literally became, like, before I even realized it, it became my personality. Like, I was just the tough girl, you know, wearing a leather jacket and just being strong and confident. And of course I was everything but confident, very insecure, but it had to look like that. And I didn't realize the extent of how much that was just tying me. I didn't realize the extent of how much that was keeping me a slave, not free to express my authentic self, my essence, right? Like, and I was speaking so much about celebrating and sharing your essence, your true self with the world, and yet there I was, hiding behind this, you know, mask of being strong and being the mentor, the helper, the coach. Not even completely blind to how incapable of asking for help I was, just refusing my father's worldview and yet adopting it at the same time. What a contradiction, right? Until I burn out, and then I burnt out some more, and then I started getting more and more conscious and more aware. And even though I was not fully aware of that mask, I was definitely feeling more and more friction inside, and more resistance, doing things that before my ego would get like a boost out of. Now it was just I wouldn't get any pleasure. It's almost like when you're a drug addict and you're addicted to, you know, the dopamine hit that you get from knowing that you are useful and you're helping someone, and therefore you deserve love, and you're being productive during that day, and therefore you can actually not feel disgust for yourself and not punish yourself because you have been the strong person and you have earned self-respect. Like it's some like it if it were something that you needed to earn. And gosh, just sorry, I want to be weak now. There was this incoherence inside of myself, of this person, this side of me that was like, I'm a badass, I want to be a badass, and saying it and wanting others to see it and wanting to prove it. And then I would get like moments of awareness, deep awareness of myself, of almost like lucidity, and I would feel connected to God. I would see everything so clearly, like, wow, this is just a protection mechanism. And I would just see it, and I would feel above that, above the mask, above all of that bullshit, all of that facade. But then I would be dragged into, the mud and the wound again. And maybe I would feel, it started during quarantine, I'd feel like very connected once a month, and then it got more frequent. I would feel maybe very connected to Source, to God, once a week. And then I would just, the span, the windows in which I felt like completely oblivious to the type of character that I was carrying, they shortened, and I would see it and like catch myself more often than not. And I would feel shame whenever I would catch myself. I would feel shame, and like, well, who am I? Like, I'm not this person that wants to be like a badass bitch. And I would use words like that were so different from my true essence. And not that it was wrong or bad, because that was my expression in that moment, at that time, and it wasn't necessarily not genuine. It was just my wound. So it was genuine, it was authentic, it was like the authentic expression in that moment, but it was just like my wound, not my essence. I just felt a lot of shame. Like, I saw the ways in which I just used my ex-partner for constant validation, just sucked energy from him, because I would feel completely useless otherwise, or just had this constant need of being validated. And I would use my friends as a coping mechanism to just distract myself from how empty I was feeling inside. And I was using them as a distraction from my mission and my vision and my purpose, which was like, I became obsessed with it. I became obsessed with this idea of wanting to reach success. I became obsessed with all of the coaches and gurus, and I don't even want to call them gurus, but they kind of are, like, not that the whole thing is wrong, but it's just like, it's like, it definitely nurtures your ego instead of killing it, or instead of helping you integrating it, which at the end it did help me integrate it, because it led me to more awareness, which led me to the death of my ego, we could say. But in the short sense, in the short term, it kind of like boosted my ego more and more every time. And then it eventually got so big that it became so obvious that it was not who I was, that it had to come up, and I had to face it and see it and be with it. And I saw finally how addicted I was to social media, to validation, how I was just chasing the next dopamine hit. And I started like with a 3 days water fast, and I just like I've had an experience with mushrooms, and it was both these experiences were so deep, and they helped me actually to detach from that like part of me that is just like really latching on to other people's approval. And even though I was saying you should not give a shit about what others think of you, I was so caring. I cared so much about what others thought of me. Everything was evolved around that, like how I saw my whole career developing, how I just like it was all around manipulating other people's perception of me so that people would see me as strong and they would not see me as weak, because I wasn't sure of who I was. And there I was speaking about how, you should be sure of who you are deep down and at your core, and I just feel like so much shame, because it's like I wasn't feeling it, and but at the same time I wasn't even aware of the contradiction. So I'm being so gentle with myself right now, even speaking about this, because I feel so vulnerable. And right now, like, it's not that my values changed. I still value freedom, I still value strength, I still value determination, I still value resilience. It's just that now that I actually live them, I don't just speak about them and not embody them. And like, I want to be weak now. I want to be seen as weak. If I don't let myself be weak, how can God lead me? How can God take over? God can take over my life only if I am weak. It cannot do that if I'm strong. We're so self-obsessed, and even like social media plays such a huge role in, social media plays such a huge role in like feeding our narcissism. And like I remember my friends would tell me like, Chiara, like, calm down, like it was just this hunger, but it wasn't organic. It was just like, I need them to know that I am strong. And it was more like, because I couldn't get my father to tell me that I was strong, because he was so insecure himself that he would put himself in competition with me and would not tell me, would not be able to reflect back to me my strength. Because he was afraid of it, I internalized his insecurity and just wanted that like a sense of I exist. People see me. People see me as strong. People see me as useful. People see me as important. They don't just walk by and forget about my name. And that is just ego. Living in that state is just living in misery. Is so sad and dark and lonely, and it's so far from the truth of who you are, and it's so far from what you can actually live. an experience when you are at one with God, and when you just allow yourself to be weak, whatever that means. I want to be seen. I want you to see me as weak. I want you to see me as weak. Yeah. How can I find my strength? How can I connect? God cannot lead me and take over if I don't let myself be weak. He just can't. There is a time for giving and there is a time for receiving. But so many of us just have such a difficult time receiving, because when you receive, you have to allow yourself to be seen as in need of receiving, and you're vulnerable. And there is nothing that is more beautiful than that. Now I don't seek to be dominant over the other person. I don't seek to dominate the other person. I seek to receive love from the other person, and it's so freeing, and it just makes me cry because it's so beautiful. I never gave myself permission to do that because I didn't think it was safe. I didn't think that was an option. I didn't think I could experience that. I didn't think I was allowed I was not allowed in my childhood to be weak, to not know things, to have things not figured out. Ciao. I just wish, if you're watching this, I just wish you can be free from your chains as well, and maybe seeing myself in this process, maybe seeing me in this process, freeing myself is going to help you do the same. Why not? We're just here to be a testimony of each other's journeys and walk each other's home, but I'm not here to teach you anything. I think you're here to teach me.